Our first speaker is Jonathan Lovett. He is a graduate from Indiana University Southeast, where he majored in marketing. Originally from Paducah, Kentucky, Jonathan enlisted in the Marine Corps upon graduation from high school in 2001. He spent 5 years in the Fleet Marine Force as a small arms repair technician and completed various operations in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, to include a deployment with the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit in 2003. He then spent the following 3 years as a Marine recruiter, where he meritoriously promoted to the rank of Staff Sergeant. Jonathan decided to transition to his professional ambitions to the private sector, became Director of Selection for a large insurance company in Louisville, Kentucky. He was ultimately offered an opportunity as an agency recruiter for a premier comprehensive financial services company in the Midwest, and now calls Midwest Financial Group his professional home. West Point, gosh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. West Point Financial Group, his professional home. So Jonathan is passionate about assisting his fellow veterans in their professional journey, spending time with his beautiful 4-month daughter, Madison Nicole Lovett, and is an active member of Kingsway Christian Church. Please help me welcome Jeff to the Spark stage.
Born down in a dead man's town, the first kicker took us when I hit the ground. End up like a dog that's been beat.
That little girl has me on an hour of sleep, so I'm going to do my best to make it through this without screwing it up too bad. But certainly, spent 8.5 years in the Corps. I'm a guy that I think somewhat successfully made the transition and kind of learned along the way. I could sit up here today. I'm very passionate about veterans hiring, and I could sit up here today and give you all kinds of statistics on the benefits of hiring veterans, but it's nothing that most of you haven't heard before. What I wanted to do instead was to tell you a personal testimony and to tell you what it was like for me to go through the transition and just some things that happened to me along the way. Story short, the first real job interview that I ever had, I'd finished school at Indiana University Southeast in New Albany, Indiana, with a degree in marketing. The first real job interview I ever had, I had networked through a friend of mine, through their father, and gotten an interview. This is in 2009, and had an interview for an executive recruiter position that I felt I was highly qualified for. So, felt good going in the interview. Brand new suit, fresh out of the cleaners, resume, cover letter, all the things, references in hand. I went to the interview and navigated the conversation for 45 minutes. Felt that I knocked the cover off the ball, and she said, the young lady that had interviewed me, her name was Brittany, she said that she would call me 3 days later to follow up, and I felt really good about it. Sure enough, Friday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she calls me back. I'm waiting by my cell phone. She calls me and says, hey, John, and this conversation goes exactly like this. She says, hey, John, I just wanted to call you personally, let you know that I really enjoyed meeting with you, but we decided to pursue a different candidate because you have never actually held a job in the private sector. Welcome to civilian life. So, that being said, my heart stopped. Everything I was told, I felt like I was a polished guy. Everything I'd been told about all the things, the right things you were supposed to do, and the way that people were going to perceive us as Marines as we go back in the civilian workforce, all that stuff had changed. But I'll tell you, I heard a story a little while later, and if I can convey to you what I felt personally, it's this. How many of you guys know who John Glenn is? Right? Everybody in here should. John Glenn was a senator from Ohio. He was also the first U.S. astronaut to orbit the Earth and the oldest person to ever fly in space. Before all that, John Glenn had spent 23 years in the Marine Corps. And on May 3rd, 1974, John Glenn was competing for the Democratic nomination U.S. Senate seat against a politician named Howard Metzenbaum. At a debate at the Cleveland City Club, Howard Metzenbaum asked John Glenn how could he run for Senate if he had never held a job. John Glenn said, is that right? I served 23 years in the Marine Corps. I went through 2 wars. I flew 149 missions. My plane was hit by anti-aircraft fire on 12 different occasions. I was in the space program. It wasn't my checkbook. It was my life that was on the line. And this wasn't a 9-to-5 job where I could take time off to take the daily cash receipts to the bank. I asked you to go with me as I went last week to the Veterans Hospital and look those men with their mangled bodies in the eye and tell them they never held a job. You go with me to the space program, you look at the widows and the orphans of Ed White, Gus Grissom, Roger Chaffee, and you look those kids in the eye and tell them that their dad never held a job. You go with me next Memorial Day and you stand at the Arlington National Cemetery, where I have more friends that I like to remember. You watch those waving flags, you think about this nation, and you tell me those people didn't have a job. I tell you, Howard Messenbaum, you should be on your knees every day of your life thanking God that there are some men that have held a job. My message to you today is that if you are fortunate enough to be in a position of power where you're interviewing a veteran, please don't ever look at them and tell them they've never held a job.
Oh.